The return to the kingdom. The sound of trumpets echoed through the shining halls of the fairy kingdom, ringing high above the crystal towers. Word spread like wildfire, Princess Sophia has returned. Everywhere they passed, fairies bowed their heads, wings shimmering in respect. The great gates of the palace opened, releasing a soft golden light that poured across the courtyard. At the top of the marble steps stood the queen, radiant in silver robes that seemed woven from moonlight. The moment her eyes met Sophia's, her composure broke. Tears shimmered in her eyes as she hurried down the steps and wrapped her daughter in a tight embrace. "My child," the queen whispered, voice trembling, "I thought I'd lost you forever." Sophia hugged her back just as tightly, tears welling in her eyes. "I missed you, mother." When they finally parted, Sophia turned and gestured to Mix, who stood quietly behind her, his clothes dusty from travel and his wooden stick still strapped to his back. "Mother, this is Mix," Sophia said softly. "My friend. He helped me find my way back here." The queen's gentle eyes moved toward him. "Then I owe you my gratitude, Mix of the mortal realm," she said with a graceful bow of her head. "You have returned what the kingdom thought lost." Mix bowed awkwardly. "I just did what I had to, Your Majesty." The queen smiled kindly. Humility suits a brave heart. They entered the palace, its halls glowing with ethereal beauty, walls carved from crystal, floating candles suspended in air, and tapestries that shimmered like water. Inside, the king awaited, seated upon his golden throne. His presence was commanding, his gaze sharp and heavy with pride. When Sophia approached, the king stood, arms open. "Welcome back, my daughter." His voice was deep, filled with restrained emotion as he embraced her. "The kingdom rejoices at your return. Tonight we celebrate." Sophia smiled faintly. "Thank you, father." She turned and gestured again. "This is Mix, my friend. He protected me on my journey." The king's eyes flicked to Mix, up and down, slow and judging. The warmth that filled the room just moments before seemed to fade. "I see," he said curtly. "A loyal companion, though one not of our kind." The queen, sensing the tension, quickly spoke. "Come, my love, let us prepare for the feast. It is a night of joy." Later that evening, music filled the palace. Fairies danced, the halls glowed brighter than ever, and the king stood, raising a golden cup. "To the return of Princess Sophia," he declared. The room erupted with cheers. But the celebration's warmth was short-lived. As the music faded, the king's voice rose again, steady, commanding. "And now," he said, "it is time for my daughter to fulfill her royal duty." Sophia froze. "Father, you will marry Prince Aaron of the Silver Wing clan," the king continued. "Our kingdoms will be united at last." Sophia's eyes widened. "No, father, that's the reason I left. I can't marry someone I don't love." "Enough," the king's voice thundered across the hall. "You carry royal blood. Your choices are not your own. They belong to the kingdom." "Please," the queen said softly, stepping forward. "My darling, let us not dictate the heart of our daughter. Love is not a duty. It is a choice." The king turned sharply toward Mix, who sat quietly at the far table, eyes lowered, saying nothing. "And you," he said bitterly, "do you think I would ever allow my daughter to fall for a low-born mortal? You are not of our world. Boy, do not forget your place." The room fell silent. Mix didn't speak. He just stared at the table, his hand gripping the edge tightly. The king slammed his goblet down. "This discussion is over." He turned and stormed out of the hall, his golden cloak trailing behind him. The queen sighed deeply, her face full of sorrow. She approached Mix and bowed her head slightly. "Forgive my husband, young one. He speaks with pride, not wisdom." Then she turned to Sophia. "Show Mix to his quarters. He needs rest after such a long journey." Sophia nodded, her voice soft. "Yes, mother." As they walked through the quiet corridors, the celebration still faintly echoing behind them, Mix finally spoke. "So, princess, huh?" Sophia gave a small, sad smile. "Guess I should have told you sooner." Mix shrugged. "Doesn't change who you are to me." She stopped, looking at him. "And who am I to you?" He hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Someone worth fighting for." They reached the guest room, walls glowing softly, a bed woven from clouds and silk. Sophia lingered by the door. "Get some rest, Mix. Tomorrow, everything changes." As she left, Mix lay back on the bed, staring up at the crystal ceiling. The music outside faded into silence, replaced by the whispering wind. Somewhere deep inside him, a storm began to stir. But for now, he didn't understand why. The next morning, the training grounds. The sun rose gently over the fairy palace, casting light that danced through the crystal spires. The kingdom was already alive with the sound of movement, the clang of metal, shouts of command, and the rhythm of boots on the training grounds. Mix, restless after a night of uneasy sleep, stepped outside into the courtyard. He watched as dozens of fairy guards trained with flawless precision. Their armor gleamed, and their wings flared in perfect sync as they sparred with swords and shields. At the center of the field stood Commander Arendor, a towering figure with silver hair tied back and eyes sharp as steel. His voice boomed across the yard. "Hold your stance. Again, stronger. The Queen's Guard will not falter." Mix stood at the edge, silently observing, his curiosity lighting up as he noticed a rack of practice swords and shields nearby. He ran his hand along the hilt of one sword, the craftsmanship foreign but beautiful. From the balcony above, the king stood watching, arms crossed, silent, his gaze fixed on the mortal below. One of the guards noticed Mix's fascination and gave a small nod toward the commander. The message was clear. The commander turned, his eyes narrowing. "You there," Arendor called out. "The mortal who traveled with the princess, yes?" Mix looked up, startled. Yeah, that's me." The commander smiled faintly, not kindly, but challengingly. "Care to test your strength, traveler? A friendly sparring match, unless mortals fear fairy steel." Mix grinned, rolling his shoulders. "I've handled worse than fairy steel." The crowd of guards chuckled and stepped back to form a circle. Mix picked up a wooden training sword, testing its weight in his hand. Across from him, the commander drew a gleaming blade of silver, bowing slightly before raising it into position. "Begin." The commander lunged first, fast and precise. Mix barely dodged, the blade slicing through the air inches from his chest. He countered with a swing, but the commander blocked effortlessly, twisting and sweeping Mix's legs from under him. Mix hit the ground hard. The guards laughed, but he rolled quickly to his feet, eyes narrowing. Again, the commander charged. This time, Mix anticipated the strike. He sidestepped, grabbed a nearby shield, and used it to deflect the blow. The clang rang out like thunder. Sparks flew. Mix pivoted, striking the commander's side with a heavy hit that made him stumble back. Gasps rippled through the guards. The commander steadied himself, grinning. Not bad for a mortal. Mix didn't answer. He just smirked, lifted the shield, and charged. The next exchange was fast and fierce. Steel against wood. Instinct against experience. Mix ducked low, swept the commander's legs, and slammed the shield upward into his chest, knocking him backward into the dirt. The crowd went silent. The commander lay stunned, staring up at the mortal who had bested him. On the balcony, the king's expression didn't change. He simply turned and walked back inside, as though it meant nothing. Sophia rushed toward the field, worry flashing in her eyes. "Mix, are you all right?" Mix lowered the sword and nodded, catching his breath. "Yeah, just a little warm-up." The commander stood, nodding respectfully. "You fight with heart, Wardle. I misjudged you." Mix smiled faintly. "I get that a lot."